This is going to be a conversation among the young people, so I am here to facilitate and not join in, because this is their space, their time to discuss this and present it to you, the audience. So I'm going to invite Akaleki, who was actually part of the team, part of the experts who actually developed the UN Youth Strategy. So over to you.
Thank you very much, and I should say it's a huge pleasure, and it's very inspiring to see that 2 weeks after the adoption of this, or the launching of this youth strategy, we are actually talking about it in the United Arab Emirates. It's very inspiring, and I want to thank Trent for that. Well, I think one of the key points which we have within this youth strategy, it's about changing the perception around young people. For a long time, and you will see research and you'll see policymakers and perspectives saying young people are troublemakers. And if we are 70% of population, like what we have in my country, and we sit every day and say youths are troublemakers, then it means that no one will be in peace. It means there will be no economic development. And if there is, it means something, a story is not being told. And I'm here to share a perspective that when we talk about this small group of young people who found themselves in violence, they are actually being trapped within the space because of the failure of some of our states in being able to provide their own part of the social contract. And there is a huge group of young people who are peace builders, and building, from my personal experience, actually seeing violence on hand and taking a path towards peace. I've had the opportunity to work with over 1 million young people in 11 years, and there's hope, because we need to be able to support young people within this process. It goes beyond just having policies. It goes around investing in these young people tangibly. It goes around making young people to see themselves as peers and to be able to support the processes which it takes to sustain peace in their communities. And that's why this youth strategy comes at a time where, it was pushed by young people, and I was fortunate to be invited by the UN Secretary General to join him in the photo op to launch this strategy, which goes to speak of the power of young people within the space of building peace. And this pillar is very, very important, because we need to take steps ahead. And I'm very excited after listening to and reading what is done in the United Arab Emirates. I think it's something which we need to copy. It is something which the world needs to know. And with the vibrant group of young people that we have, I want to tell them we need to keep working and keep working. Because if my background in violence did not stop me, and I have friends who were burnt alive and they were thrown to jail, but I came to right the wrongs. And there are many more young people across the world who are doing the same thing. And sitting here with my peers, and we talk as experts now and building on our experiences. So it's very important that we create this safe space for young people to be able to engage within these processes and to be able to put them at leadership position. I was very inspired to hear the minister talking about, young people under 30 leading perspective to change national development conversation. I think in the space of young people and peace building, we should be able to create such a space, and to ensure that it should be a collaborative effort. Young people, we must partner. It's very, very important that we are ready to partner, and we should stop stigmatizing young people as troublemakers and think of investing in them, and I'm sure we can do this together. So I think this is the message which the policy actually puts forth for us to have more conversation.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with that, and I think it's about also finding that golden middle where you're not dictating to the youth of what to do, right? But also you're not letting them off to be on their own, because we do need some guidance, right? We do sometimes need some guidance. We are being thrown into this world where, it's everything very new to us. And sometimes we come from the backgrounds where we've been nurtured and kept in this small shell. And then you're like, well, off you go, you try and figure it out for your own. And some youth don't find the right path. And they go off the path. But sometimes, you have the older population saying, no, you're supposed to be doing this, or no, you're supposed to be dressed this way, or you're supposed to be thinking this way, without actually asking, what do you want to think? How do you want to dress, right? So it's the importance of empowering them, but also giving them some kind of guidance.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I love the point that we brought up about youth as experts, right? I understand that sometimes it can be a hard sell to see a young person claim to be an expert at something because expertise takes time, right? It takes effort, discipline, years of commitment. But I think that sometimes shrugging off that expertise that young people has, what it does is it validates and it doesn't recognize our experiences, our lived experiences, because I think that they're extremely valuable. Young people and youth are an extremely diverse bunch, like we discussed earlier. And with that diversity comes a ridiculous range of experience. Youth have struggled, they've sacrificed, they've lost, they've learned things. And I think that listening to that voice is crucial, especially if we're serious about integrating this huge youth population into public policy. And we do want to create, global citizens from the youth population.
Absolutely agree with everything that's been said, and Akalaki, who's talked about the power of young people, and we should see young people as agents of change, and quite often that means engaging with young people who are disengaged and who aren't involved in youth work, who are disengaged from education, because often the best ideas come from those young people who are furthest away from the system. And you'd be really surprised, working with deprived people, you'll find the best ideas. And what we need to see is governments to treat young people as agents of change. But to put that power into practice, we need clear leadership from our government. So here you're absolutely doing fantastic work. You're sending the right signals. You have a very strong message from the top leadership and youth circles, etc. In Scotland, similarly, we have a designated year. So this year is a year of young people. And that's when the whole machinery of government comes together and ensures that every area is focusing on young people, that we're looking at our funding, we're looking at the messages, we're looking at legislation and guidance, and that it ensures that it meets young people's needs. It's not all about legislation, it can be about the messaging, and I think you have that right, you have that in your grasp, but it's all about young people taking that forward. And I've been inspired by young people, and I think that's the most key message, is the young people who are engaged, is to inspire other young people to get them involved as well, because you're the ones that are going to inspire them, not adults, you guys, the young people.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message, making sure that there's equal participation amongst the young people. And it's oftentimes when I see somebody else my age, a younger woman who's so empowered in her role, and she comes to me and says, you know what, Nadia, you should apply for that opportunity. You are good enough, or you should take that chance. And that's what really gives me the courage to go forward and do what I do. And just hopping back on lived experience, I was talking with Akaleche yesterday, and really seeing youth and young people as the experts. So we were talking about how we mobilize people and our different programs, and you just have to talk to them and understand what gets you up in the morning. And I think in my experience, a lot of times it's social media, and taking pictures and being able to have that outward image. So we've built a lot of our programs with March on the Campus around social media, giving young people the opportunity to have that outward image, but then also doing a lot of great things like getting out the vote, registering people to vote, canvassing, phone banking for different candidates, and engaging in that civic participation.
I completely agree with you. As soon as I came in and I met these lovely individuals in the morning, and I felt my brain expanding. I mean, when we get to connect with youth from all over the world, people who have different experiences, and we have the most important thing, space to grow, space for safety, space to be creative, space to be ourselves. I mean, this is the exact thing I felt when I met them today morning, and I wish I could get this experience every day. How can I connect with other youth from all over the world? How can I learn from them? How can I know what they're doing? How can I know what they're living through? I'm here sitting in my country, I'm happy, I have a job. What are they doing? I was talking today morning about Boko Haram and Houthis, getting into curriculums and brainwashing children with education. I mean, this is what we have going on outside our borders. So how can we help them? How can we use our own experiences, our own individual youthful experiences to spread them across the world?
Nira, if I may add about education. So I'm I think we overlook the fact that it starts at a very young age. We tend to overlook the fact that the books that our children read, the games that they play, the conversations that they have, all build up the kind of person that they'll become in the future. So I was reading an article about Elon Musk and the kind of comics he was reading. And the kind of comics he was reading, of course, about superheroes and Iron Man and Batman. And, growing up, we all watched these, cartoons. But there's something that was really intriguing for me was that he absorbed the idea of being a hero. He linked being a futurist, an innovator, from a very young age. And then he got up to this point, and he admitted it himself, that the comics, the books that he read, the literature that he read really shaped him as a person. And if we look at the education system, let's be honest, it's not where it's supposed to be in all parts of the world. It's still the one-way direction where the teacher tells the student what they, the knowledge basically. And there's not enough room for self-expression or really, I would say, reflection. At least in my case, I graduated from a British curriculum school, and I felt like it was all about getting the grades. There was never room for me where I asked myself, who's Mira? What is Mira into? I only started thinking about who I am and my identity 4 years ago when I graduated. So I wish we could take a step back and really give students space to do that even earlier in life. And, again, stress the importance of social workers and, like my colleagues here were saying, the importance of having a role model from a young age and not just let them, and of course someone who listens, not just a role model, someone who probably listens at different frequencies. That's it, thank you.
So actually going back to education and both of Mira's points, really. So what's very interesting is we're more or less the same age, right? But then you do have these girls and boys who are the same age as us and join violent extremist organization. And you start thinking, okay, how come none of us got radicalized? What did our parents do differently? What did the society do differently for us that we decided to not join these organizations and cause, atrocities? From one side, you cannot blame them because you really have to understand why did they end up there, right? It's probably not from a good life, but I think what we at least need to try to do is understand what are our experiences and jointly maybe try to share this and make sure that the next generation of youth doesn't go through the experiences of others and join violent extremist organizations, but actually goes through our own paths.
Well, I think youth are very impressionable and they're basically raw material. All they need is a platform and encouragement. All they need is a platform and encouragement to do the things they want, and also to express themselves in the ways they want to express themselves. I feel like the role of a role model or a parent or whatever shouldn't be the role of dictation, but rather a role of leadership. That's the only way that you can shape youth the way they want to be shaped.
And it's also, just to echo everything that these incredible people have said, it's about scaling up the impact of youth. It's about making our voices permanent within the system of change so that our future is better, and that includes us as a permanent big part of it rather than individual voices. And that's why our diverse experiences are so incredible, because we're speaking towards the same things. We're basically echoing the same thoughts, even though we come from different countries, different backgrounds, different fields of expertise. And we are so diverse. And all of our roles, they need to be permanently embedded in the system of change so that our future is more prosperous, so that it includes us as agents of change, as has been said. And that includes our lived experience, for example, as Nadia said. So that needs to kind of be permanently there and just reiterated until everybody gets it, basically. Yeah.
I think I would like to echo one very important issue around young people, which is mentorship. And I want to build on my personal story around that, because here was I on the street and fighting on the street with machete. And a mentor met me and told me, Christian, you have the vibe to lead. You have what it takes to change minds, because You know what it means to fight on the street. You know what it means to mobilize people, to engage in whatsoever. And, you know, that first day alone meant a lot because someone told me the energy you have could be used for something else. I think this is what young people have to understand, and gave me an opportunity to serve, which is also very important, to serve as a volunteer. Young people, we need to understand that. We do a lot around that, but you get an opportunity to find yourself. And having been able to serve and teaching you how to use your experiences to build solutions, because we are solution providers. And today, that young person who used to fight on the street have had the opportunity to be recognized even at the level of Her Majesty the Queen, and, you know, being awarded several prizes. But this is not for personal acclamation, but to send a strong message out there that, you know, the best path towards becoming a hero, it's for peace. The best path towards, you know, enjoying self-satisfaction is to serve people. So I think these are values which are very, very important. And every day we have to call on our older generation not to let us go. We are asking for leadership, but please hold our hands, because we need to do it together. And that's why the last pillar of the UN SDGs actually says partnership towards development. So we need to do it together. I think these are values which we keep very closely to our hearts.
And I think it's the importance of building that trust between the younger people and older people, like the adults, because, I mean, at times the adults don't have that trust in us. They think, well, yeah, he's still growing up, he's still young, you know. Well, but when you grow up, you will know better. It's like, well, no, I actually know better right now because these are my peers. So I know I'll be able to represent them better than you. You think you know better. Yes, fair enough. You went through the same things. You were once a young person yourself. But you need to understand that whatever you have went through shaped you into what you are right now as an adult. But give me the agency as well now. I need to be telling my peers of, okay, don't do this. I think, you know, it's going to be bad for us. You know, if we're going to do this, you know, the adults are not going to take us serious as well. So it's better to establishing that trust. I think is very, very important.
I think that one thing that's necessary for all of us is to work to change this narrative of youth in the world. There's this idea that exists that youth are disengaged, that we don't care, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Youth all over the world want desperately to be able to use their voices to impact change, want desperately to be able to use what they've learned and use their experiences to make their homes, make the world a better place. But it goes along with, I think, what you were saying about having role models. What Dr. Chantal was saying about if you can't see it, you don't really believe it, and what you said about being integrated into the system. I think that our voices need to be heard, you know? Ultimately, that's what it is.
And I think hopping off of that, we really need to create the avenues. So a lot of times we find young people, we have this energy, we have the capacity to build peace, and but we don't have the avenues to. We often don't know, you know, what step do you put first, and I think that's the key with partnerships. A lot of times we can learn the best practices. People older than us have been doing this for a while, so they have accumulated a lot of wisdom and knowledge about proper implementation. And so I think we can really learn with our partnerships with older people and their experience to understand how to take this energy and really form it into something inspiring.
I mean, you just said something that clicked so much to me. We need the right avenues. Can you guys imagine having sort of like an international youth academy where you can connect with youth all over the world, where you can attract talent, where you can know about what they go through, where you can learn more about them, where you can just be together, express, build your projects, collaborate? If we have that sort of setting, I can personally say that this will make, I mean, we have the largest generation of youth. What sort of future are we going to face? We need for them to get up, gather, you know, sit together in order to actually make things happen. We can't just sit in one small room or just use our social media outlets and, you know, hear what they say or see. I mean, these are all fake news, like Ibrahim said. We need to know the genuine, authentic settings of these young people. So I think that the right venues, the right space, connections, networking, that is the key, I believe.
Absolutely. I think one of the key messages coming out of this is having a platform. So I'm going to be slightly biased and going to talk about my own country and how we have the Scottish Youth Parliament. And that's been there since the actual Scottish Parliament was established. It was actually established the day before the Scottish Parliament. So we've had that for 20 years now. Now, that's not backed up by legislation. We're only a charity. But from 20 years now, we've got such a brilliant relationship, so much so that now we have a yearly meeting with our cabinet. And we get to ensure that recommendations are made directly to the government. And it's really important having that platform, because once you have a platform and it's free, it's accessible to all young people, you know, you'll have a diverse range of young people. I mean, we've got more women than men in our youth parliament. We have people who have a disability, ethnic backgrounds, people who are care experienced, and that brings a uniqueness. We all come together and we meet 3 times a year and we discuss lots of things, and this is a complete myth that young people aren't interested in politics. In Scotland, we vote at 16 and 17 in all elections and referendums, and the voter turnout is the highest in the UK and one of the highest in Europe. And, you know, they're highly engaged and we're really, really passionate about issues, and older people don't know that. They tend to argue that we don't know, and often when we're invited to events like this, we're the only young person in the room, and they often then seem to be, oh, why did we only invite one? We should have invited the whole youth parliament to this event to have your say, to have your voice heard, because we do bring a uniqueness to the table. You know, we often have a different perspective of life. We have an open mind to things, which is really important when it comes to solutions, when it comes to problems in our daily lives. But I think having that platform is key, and something like, you know, a youth parliament or, you know, a youth circle, and ensuring that there's, you know, that you reflect your population, because once you reflect your population, you can meet everybody's needs. So ensuring that you have different people from different sectors is really key as well.
I think this was something that we were joking about yesterday, that we should just open a think tank and all of us join it, basically, because it's something that it is missing, right? There is no think tank that has under 30, you know, people who are exactly run by youth. It's missing, so I think this is something that would be helpful. And most importantly, once again, for adults to actually give us that agency and let us do what we think is right and consult us, because we're the best representatives of the society. So,
one thing that I'm always hesitant of, and this has happened to me a lot, and I'm sure it's happened to all of you, is being the ceremonial young person in the room, where you're at an event and it's full of people who are experts in something, and you're there, but you're just there because they needed a young person. You know, you have like the tables, the chairs, a young person in case people take pictures, and that's frustrating. You know, it really is, because our voices are valuable, and it often does feel, for me in my experience, and I'm sure for a lot of us, that our youth is acknowledged. People realize that we have expertise on a topic, people respect it, but when there's only one of us in a room, our voice isn't very loud. And I think that what you said about having the entire parliament there, having that representation of youth, because there's so many youth in the world, is crucial, because our voices can easily be drowned out when there's not many of us in these avenues.
So I think I definitely agree, because it's about scaling up the impact and the roles and the importance of our experience. And that's why another thing that's important is asking the right questions and listening as well. Listening to other people, and for example, I mean, Mira is an entrepreneur, and I'm just so fascinated with that. I mean, you're so young, and you know, there is that spirit of, okay, let me create something new. Let me put, you know, my product out there. Let me, you know, experience something new. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is something I want to learn from. You know, and this is just asking the right questions, listening and absorbing it and trying to apply it in your own life with your own example as well. So I feel scaling up the impact, inviting the whole parliament, you know, or opening a think tank. I mean, all of these ideas that just need a platform, need a channel, because we do have energy, and it's just about having us in the room, having us talk, having us establish, I guess, some sort of a common knowledge that kind of circulates among us as well. So that's important, I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing how in the UK, for example, you have youth parliament, and here you have youth councils. And it's not just a general youth council, but you have a council in companies, you have councils in government institutions, you have councils for each emirate, for example, which is a great initiative that should be pushed globally, I think. It gives the youth a voice to speak to government officials directly. And I think that's an amazing thing that should be taken on a global stage.
I think one thing which is very interesting, and for 11 years I've had the opportunity to sit in forums like this, for example. But I think if we do all the talking without those who have the money in the bag to invest in us, I think we have a problem there. And there I'm talking about our governments, I'm talking about companies who have CSR programs that need to invest. Because for the youth agenda to move forward, we might have all the energy, we might have all the initiatives, but if there's no proper investment on us, I mean investment for us to build our capacity, which is the first thing. I mean, a $1,000 can change the lives of many young people. I've lived the experience where after winning an award of £5,000, I was able to invest and work in a correctional facility. And now it has grown to 8 correctional facilities across the national territory. It means that young people have the capacity to multiply. So it's not about trying us. We have shown evidence of our consistency, our energy to support each other, but we need this. You need to believe in us. You need to invest in us. It's very, very important. And in a space where I believe there's a lot that happens around young people, I think this investment should go across the border as well. Coming from a country where we have active conflict as we speak right now, there are many young people who have ideas, who want to do something, but they lack the resources. I'm talking about in Democratic Republic of Congo, I'm talking about going to the Caribbean. It's a real challenge. And within my workspace, leading young people across the Commonwealth, 53 countries, it's a huge experience for us to bring to the table. And I can tell you, in these 53 countries, from Asia to the Pacific to the Caribbean to Africa, it's a real problem. We need such investment. You need to believe in us because we can do it together. I think it's a strong message that we need to keep echoing, and we need our elders, we need our leaders to keep talking about this to the powers that be, because we can do it together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And I'm a first-generation American. My family background is Haitian, and I think it has a lot to do with the cultural context. So I was brought up in the American culture, and as an American, I think in the family structure, my voice is valued as a young person. But the minute there's a family gathering or it switches over into a more Haitian context, my voice is not valued as much, especially as a young woman. So I think it's important with investment, looking to invest in areas and making sure that we invest in areas that with the family structure, young people's voices aren't as valued. I also think it's important to start at home if we're looking for practical action items. Really, where this starts is at home, and I think Mira touched on that a lot. It starts a lot younger than age 18 and 29. It starts right at your development stage. It starts at 8 when you're watching TV, or 10 years old when you're told that you can't do something and that you really want to do. So if we really want to have that action item, we should start a lot earlier than 18, so then hopefully we can create younger people that are a lot more empowered and can draw on their adolescent experience of empowerment and take that into the future.
I was just thinking about something this morning, and it's the motivation, like to, for example, come to this conference or to do something like this. I was wondering, what about people who do have the same, mentality, have the same energy, but really can't get the motivation to do something like this? And we emphasize a lot about external motivation, about getting people, your parents, your friends to motivate you. But I think it's also important to emphasize on the importance of self-motivation. And no one really teaches us how to do that. You kind of learn it along the way. And if we do that at a very, again, not even at like in your 20s, you can do that now. Pick up the skills on self-motivation. I think this will empower youth at a larger scale.
Yeah, and touching on the investment of youth, I think it's the most important thing for any country in the world. Because we're the ones that are going to inherit the world that's built. We're going to inherit the decisions you make, and we are going to develop those decisions and pass it on to the next generation of youth. So investment in youth, for me, is the most important thing.
I just wanted to touch upon the youth that grew up in conflict areas. I myself, so I'm from Tajikistan, and I was born right at the beginning of the civil war in Tajikistan. And I grew up, we moved here to the UAE in 1996, And the war was going on in Tajikistan until 1997. And my perception of, childhood was with that kind of environment and like in conflict. We didn't have any, we were always, my mother would not let me go off anywhere far away from the house because she was always worried about, obviously there were people running around with guns and, tanks and, well, dead bodies around. So they were trying to protect us. But I think this is something very important to actually try to understand that youth that grew up in conflict areas and see how it affected them, how it affected their perception of the world and how they are now as they grew up. But I think it's also very important to give them some kind of psychological care, and maybe that's actually not only for youth, but everyone, really. Everyone needs to go through some kind of psychological care after they've faced something as atrocious as, conflicts.
It's actually very interesting to see youth in such areas. They dream of having an educational opportunity. And here we have so many education opportunity, yet we have a very trendy perception that, if I do get my higher education, I might be unhireable. I might be too qualified. That sort of perception is what puts off students from continuing their higher degrees. I mean, why do you think that way? Why don't you just widen your horizon? They feel limited. They feel restricted. How can we change that? I think that is what most of my friends say to me when they say, Mira, you have your master's? What? Why? I mean, did your salary change? I mean, that doesn't even matter. You should build your own self. You should try more. You should find what you like. They feel that they're in a box and they don't know that there's a world out there. That's very sad.
Yeah, no, touching on that and on Mira's earlier point about motivation, right now we have a very, I think, a unique opportunity, right? This huge population of youth, youth with unique voices, with unbelievable potential. But being young means that our expertise, our passion may or may not have an expiration date, right? We're not going to be young forever. We're not going to care about these issues forever. And that's frustrating because if we aren't given that proper channel for our motivation, if we're not given the opportunity to do something with this passion while we have it, we're going to age, and the natural circle of life means that the problems that we have now are going to be replaced by other problems. And it's only fair that you devote all of your energy to problems that impact you or impact your loved ones. That's human nature, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's why I think that it's crucial for us to capitalize now while we may have that motivation. And it's important for us to give that motivation to others, because if they don't have it, then when they lose it, this is just a cycle. This is a problem that's going to repeat into the next generation. And we're just going to have more youth who are going to have these same exact conversations, not realizing that we had them already. And we're going to lose touch with who we used to be.
I think it's also really important to note that young people, we're just a microcosm of the larger society. So it's not just young people's issues, it's the same issues that are dealt with past age 29, past age 35, but we just have the multiplier effect of being younger. So I think that's really important. And I think in this conversation we talked about what we're inheriting. Yes, it's what we're inheriting, it's about what we're living in right now. We should look really at the present and focus on creating solutions with partnerships, working with other youth-led organizations, sharing ideas, creating spaces to combat these issues now, rather than waiting for later.
I think that's very important about value. Valuing young people is absolutely key because you motivate more young people. So one of the things we do is something very simple. We hold a yearly award ceremony, a national yearly award ceremony, where young people can nominate other young people in different categories, and everybody gets to vote. All young people get to vote on who they should think that should win the award, and then it goes to a judging panel. So having that is absolutely key. I mean, also recognizing people through social media. I mean, this is the year of young people, so organizations, local members, elected members are always posting stuff about young people, recognizing their achievements. What contributions do they make, and how do we best amplify that? How do we tell the world that young people are so important, they make a positive contribution, and that in itself will encourage people. I just want to also touch on how valued that I think we should feel, because this is the only conference outside of the UN that's discussing the youth strategy, so I think that's something to really be proud of, and to thank Trend and WIS Global as well for their fantastic work in putting on this show, and it's a great conference.
I think I have a message for my peers who are here today. It's very important because we think we must talk to governments always. I think we need to talk to ourselves. And I know one of the challenges that echoes in our minds is about resources. How do we mobilize resources? I think we firstly have to stop the blame game. And secondly, the first resource you must mobilize is yourself. If you cannot mobilize yourself as a resource, 0 times 1,000 is 0. Nothing will change. And I take it from myself. You know, in first grade, I was the last in my class. I left the university with a 2.4 GPA, which is nothing, but I could acquire a scholarship to study in the UK and to teach in the university, because there's one thing my mentor told me: you have to mobilize yourself, and you have to think about your experiences. You need to channel your energy, your passion. I think this is the message we must carry. It's not about where you are from. It's about what you think about yourself. And if you can mobilize yourself, trust me, the sky is your limit. If you can mobilize yourself, it means you can unravel the challenge of radicalization, of recruitment of young people who are victims. I think it's very, very important we think about ourselves as that first resource that we must mobilize. If you can mobilize yourself and you're ready for the task, trust me, we're good to go. And we're good to partner with each other and for us to make this work. Thank you.
And I think we all need to make a promise that, I mean, this was a great event to bring us all together, right? And we're all the youth, and we owe it to the next generation of coming up youth. I mean, whoever is younger than 20 at least. We need to make this world better, but also help them. You know, whoever is an adult now was once youth, and maybe some of them forgot that what it's like to be, you know, young. So we need to, as we grow older, we need to make sure that we maintain that trust to younger people, and we empower them, and we do whatever we can as partnering with each other as well, right, to empower youth.
Dr. Alhamli, first of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to sit together. I mean, you will now be responsible for having us to keep meeting. And something like that should happen on a regular basis, I think. For us to sit down and find solutions for the youth, I think it's going to be extremely vital to sit down with you guys and even have a bigger group and something international, an international network that is solution-based for youth all over the world.
And then making sure that international network includes all people of society, and that it's not just the elite ranks in our countries, and making sure that, yes, we can mobilize ourselves, but sometimes that mobilization isn't enough. You need a hand from above bringing you up.
So I think we have to say, yes, we can.
I think we've just demonstrated that age is not important when it comes to expertise. You know, we have got a group of experts here on the stage, and they've actually provided quite a lot of ideas, quite a lot of solutions, you know, to some of the problems. And I think this is something that I'd really like to carry on discussing with you. But if you'd like to join me and thank our forum, please.